Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes blasting both agencies for failing to turn over subpoenaed documents about that anti-Trump dossier.
Everything about this smells. The real issue here is not foreign interference in the U.S. election, but domestic.
President Trump telling the New York Times that the Russia investigation is making the country look bad.
I'm very much for somebody who's younger. I think my generation's got to get the hell out of politics.
Funny hearing Democrats talk about we need new blood, we need new blood. They can go to Keith Richards' doctor and get all their blood changed. They're still selling unpopular ideas.
The president admitted for the first time he has been soft on trade with China. He says he had hoped Beijing would pressure North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons program.
They screwed it. I mean, how many ways do you have to put it to get it to understand? He tried to work with them, and they haven't done it.
The Vanity Fair begging Hillary Clinton to not run again. Now they're getting huge backlash for it, with subscribers angrily attacking them and even burning the magazine. President Trump is taking delight in the magazine's plight.
Dark and chilly out there on the last Friday of 2017. Welcome to Fox and Friends. Pete and is here with us. Rachel as well. I'm Leland Vittert. Great to be with you. The big guys are enjoying their well-deserved time off.
Of course they are. It's the last weekday of 2017. We've got a weekend, but on Monday it'll be January 1st. So who knows what you're going to find on this program of Fox and Friends, the final 2017 program.
And y'all are enjoying Wisconsin weather here in New York.
Wisconsin, Minnesota weather, it's way too cold.
Wisconsin and Minnesota weather, yes, it is. Enjoying, I'll let you put that adjective on there.
No, I'm not
do you enjoy it when it's negative 10 in Wisconsin?
I stay in. I'm like a shut-in. Once it gets to a certain temperature, I just look at the kids outside and I wave at them playing in the snow. I don't
feel like
go
this
out there.
set is missing a fireplace.
Yeah, that would be nice.
True.
How about
have a fireplace installed.
Yeah, somewhere.
About that?
Even if it's one of those just video fireplaces.
You just feel warmer, just getting a row of video.
Of course.
I did the Yule log for the first time this Christmas for like a couple of hours. On the TV, you just turn the Yule log with music.
You don't have a fireplace?
No, I have a fireplace as well. I have two fireplaces going, real and virtual.
I have the fireplace on all the time.
And join us all morning long on Fox and Friends. Thanks for being here. We're going to move on to a little bit of news as well. All right, well, enough is enough. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes blasting the DOJ and the FBI for failing to turn over documents on the anti-Trump dossier.
That's right, and Nunes is now demanding all records be available by next week.
Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital where there's not a fireplace either. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Leland, Rachel, and Pete. We're going to start the year with a bang on Capitol Hill because this is a very strongly worded letter. It sets a deadline next week for a possible showdown between the Intel Committee and the agencies. Chairman Nunes is slamming the Department of Justice and FBI for failing to produce documents related to subpoenas issued over 4 months ago concerning the so-called Trump dossier, telling Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein in the last line of this letter, quote, "At this point, it seems the DOJ and FBI need to be investigating themselves." Nunes is demanding those documents by January 3rd, along with witness lists. He is clearly frustrated with the agencies for slow walking his request, and the sentiment is shared on Capitol Hill. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
I understand the frustration because when you sit back and you look at what has happened, the lack of response, Congress has a responsibility of oversight. They have been ignored. They have been delayed. They have refused to send people in to have hearings or to be questioned.
Now, President Trump sat down with a New York Times reporter yesterday who asked about the Mueller investigation. The president telling him that he has confidence in Mueller, saying, quote, "I think that Bob Mueller will be fair and everybody knows that there was no collusion. I actually think it's turning to the Democrats because there was collusion on behalf of the Democrats." That a clear reference to the fact that the dossier was funded by the Clinton campaign. So a lot of shakeup, you may recall, from Bruce Orr to Peter Strzok to Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. And, you know, he's retiring early next year, but they're not done trying to question him. Guys, we will see where this all goes, but it's going to be a very busy week, midweek next week.
Indeed.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Griff Jenkins in Washington. Griff, thank you. Wow, and you do get the feeling that there is perhaps, if there's not something to hide, there's at least an attempt to slow walk things. And we were talking earlier that if there's nothing there, if there is no problem inside the DOJ or the FBI, why hide it? If you don't have anything to hide, you put everything out and say, I'm an open book.
Yeah, especially under this administration. I mean, now when you control the levers of those two departments, ultimately they are independent, especially the FBI, investigative bodies. But ultimately, you would believe you would get full compliance. I think it is a reaction of, whether you call it the deep state or the bureaucracy, of embedded career civil servants who still have the grips of power in a lot of these places and don't want to give up all these information. And it is this new Inspector General investigation at the DOJ that has actually, not new, it's been going on for a year, but we're now learning more about it, that forced the Peter Strzok text messages to come out. So there seems to be an independent investigation actually going on, which is feeding the Mueller investigation and creating a problem for that investigation. If there's an ideological viewpoint there, I hope there isn't, but a lot of people fear there might be.
Well, I think you're being really nice when you say they're slow walking. I think there's a cover-up. To me, I look at this and I say there's only one reason why for 4 months you would be stonewalling Devin Nunes and the House Intelligence Committee and not turning this over. And the only reason would be because there must be something embarrassing about how they obtained the dossier and how they have really been going after using the DOJ, using the FBI, using our justice system to go after the president in a really unfair manner. And I'll tell you what, Congress, I have a husband who's in Congress, they are mad. You know, this is the United States of America. This is not Russia. We're talking a lot about Russia. The KGB doesn't have to respond to the American people. These two departments need to understand that they're accountable to the American people. So when you stonewall Congress, you're stonewalling the American people.
Well, it is Congress that is the voice of the American people. We're going to have Representative Rooney out of Florida, who made some news earlier, talking about purging members of the FBI and the DOJ, the folks that Pete were talking about. Listen now to Trey Gowdy laying out the case here about how everything is different. FBI handling Hillary Clinton investigation versus the Trump investigation.
What was different about the investigation into Secretary Clinton? The answer is almost everything. I'm not interested in litigating their decision not to charge her. Just forget about that. You can like it, you can not like it. No entity is too big to provide oversight over, and the FBI and the Department of Justice are strong enough and venerable enough to withstand scrutiny. If you have made the decision not to charge someone in May of 2016, before you have interviewed 24 witnesses, before you have interviewed the target of the investigation, then you're going to have to explain how you reached that decision not to charge before you ended the investigation. That's not the way it's done for anyone else in this country. So I want to ask the FBI, did you do things differently in her investigation? We already know the answer. The answer is yes. So then we're going to ask, why did you do it differently in her case?
You know, and I think the president gave an interview yesterday, which we'll get to as well. He's playing this very shrewdly. He's saying, hey, I'm not going to fire Bob Mueller. And I think he's looking into things as fairly as he may or may not, because he understands, to your point earlier, there is no there. There is no collusion. He's reiterated that time and time again. But there is this sense, and an abiding sense, I think just from regular Americans, that there's no doubt that Hillary Clinton received a special treatment. If I was an intel officer in the United States Army and did 1/1000th of what Hillary Clinton did with classified or even nearly classified information, I would be in Leavenworth right now.
It's not an if, it is an is, because there are former intel officers, there's former members of the United States Navy, there's former military people, there's former NSA workers, former CIA officers who have served time, who have gone to jail, who have lost their jobs, who have lost their livelihoods because of doing much, much, much less than what Hillary Clinton was accused of doing. And at some point for the Democrats, as you talk to them in Washington, it's almost about the journey, not really the destination. They feel as though that if they can keep Russia, collusion, Mueller, Trump in the same sentence, they don't really care about the verbs between all those words.
Right.
It's a good point. It's a narrative they have to feed no matter what.
Well, I was just saying, you know, the American people didn't, I mean, it's nice getting more of this information that we're getting, as you said, from this independent counsel, proving that Hillary was treated differently, the messages that we saw from Peter Strzok. But the American people knew this. I think that's why she wasn't elected. And by the way, Democrats want to move on from Hillary, which is why Howard Dean says old Democrats need to get out of the way in 2020.
That's light. Listen to Howard Dean.
I think my generation's got to get the hell out of politics, start coaching, and start moving up this next generation, so that who are more, I think, fiscally sane. This young generation's going to pay for that if we don't get the hell out of the way and have somebody who's 50 running the country.
So we've got here's a full screen of some of the top Democrat 2020 contenders. Bernie Sanders, 76, Biden, 75, Warren, 68, Kamala Harris, 53, Sherrod Brown, 65. I think Hillary Clinton, if she ran, would be somewhere in her 70s. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, and that list is not our list. That is Democratic insiders. That's the people who are out there raising money. I don't know if do we still have that picture of Howard Dean that we put downstairs with him with his arm out here? I think that's the picture from the screen. He seems to have... There it is, yes.
Get out of the way.
He has tempered since then, but he has a point. You think about the last 3 times Democrats won the presidency. President Obama, when he won, he was 47. President Clinton, when he ran in 1992 and won against H.W. Bush, he was 46, and Carter was 52. So Dean at least has a point there and perhaps a lesson. And there's so many Democrats that I talk to, Democratic fundraisers and then Democratic strategists who all say, yes, we need younger blood. We just don't know who it is.
Except that the candidate of the young people in the Democrat Party is Bernie Sanders. They love him. I've been to college campuses.
They do.
They absolutely love him. And by the way, they say, the Democrats, that, and Howard Dean alluded to this as well, that he's hoping that they have as many candidates as the Republicans had in their primary. I doubt that will happen because they're just the party of control and rigging and
certainly from the last cycle. But if 2016 is a lesson, we don't know who their candidate will be right now. There could be a sleeper that we're not even looking at right now that people coalesce around quickly. But you're right. We'll see if their process is
Larry Sabato was on a couple days ago saying that the airlines are going to have more flights into Iowa because there's so many Democrats who want to run for president. With that, Jillian here with some headlines from the morning. Good morning.
Good Friday morning, and we do have some breaking news, guys. So let's get everyone caught up with this Fox News alert. 2 gunmen stormed a church in Egypt, shooting and killing 2 cops. It happened hours ago just south of Cairo during morning prayers. One of the gunmen shot dead. According to state-run media, a manhunt is on right now for the other. No word yet on who's responsible, but ISIS has killed dozens of Christians in church bombings and shootings in Egypt this past year, including twin bombings at churches on Palm Sunday. More breaking news, 12 people dead, including a 1-year-old child, after flames swept through an apartment building in New York City. People rushing out of their homes into below freezing temperatures to escape the inferno.
Trying to get down on their own. That's how fast it was moving. People were screaming, and that's how we knew it was trouble, because people were screaming, fire, hell, fire, hell. We knew it was trouble.
More than 170 firefighters worked for hours to get the flames under control. This is the city's deadliest fire in 27 years. New overnight, South Korea seizing a Hong Kong ship for allegedly violating UN sanctions. The country claims Hong Kong transferred oil to North Korea. Meantime, President Trump blasting China for the same thing. U.S. spy satellites appearing to expose the illegal trading. The president tweeting, quote, caught red-handed. Very disappointed that China is allowing oil to go into North Korea. There will never be a friendly solution to the North Korea problem if this continues to happen. And that's a look at your headlines, guys. I will send it back to you.
That's the truth. They're not a part of the solution. They're part of the problem.
Yep.
Jillian, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Well, tax reform. Check. So what's on deck for 2018? What you want on the presidential agenda next?
Plus, Christmas, well, it's over, but the NFL is still playing the Grinch. They'll let players kneel for the national anthem, but what about these Jingle Bell cleats? Well, they're banned. Seriously?
Wow. Welcome back. President Trump is mapping out his agenda for the new year. So what is on conservatives' wish list for 2018? Ned Ryan is the founder and CEO of American Majority, and he joins us now with more on this. Ned, good morning. Thanks for being here. Okay, so if you're a conservative, you support President Trump, you saw what he did in 2017. That's right. What are you looking for in 2018 to pursue the agenda?
Build the wall. The most important thing, one of the reasons he was elected, Pete, was to build the wall. And I think one of the things that he has to do is say, I'm going to be relentless on this. It's about $22 billion to build that southern wall, 1,000 miles, 40 feet long, 40 feet high. And he has to tell Congress, there is no DACA deal unless I get full funding for my wall. He needs to remember, this is one of the top reasons he got elected. He needs to keep appointing Federalist Society judges to every level of the federal bench. And this is important. He has to make sure that they're young, make sure that they're 40-somethings, because, Pete, one of the things that's important to tearing apart the administrative state is putting in conservative judges that are going to curtail it and start to tear it apart. And we talk about draining the swamp. One of the ways that you can do that is putting in these young judges. The other thing that I would like to see him do is put out an executive order in January saying the departments will cut 10% of their staff and spending in 2018. I don't think people understand there are almost 2 million federal employees costing taxpayers $137 billion a year. We could take a 10% cut and people probably wouldn't even notice it. Another couple of things I'd like to see. I want to see him close that carried interest loophole. It was one of his big campaign promises. It is egregious. It is fundamentally unfair. It could save up to $180 billion over 10 years, and he can do it without Congress. He can do it through an act with Secretary of Treasury Mnuchin, through Section 707 of the tax code. I would like to see him do that as well and say, we're not going to give those fat cats this loophole anymore. It is unfair. We will not tolerate it anymore.
And Ned, you said there's one more place you'd like to see funding completely cut from.
That's right, Planned Parenthood. I would like to see him go after funding for Planned Parenthood. There is no reason that Planned Parenthood should be getting $550 million in taxpayer dollars when a significant percentage of Americans, myself included, find the killing of unborn children egregious. Cut funding for Planned Parenthood. Pete, I'd throw in something else, too, that he can do without Congress. Declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. If he were to do those things in 2018, when I think Congress is going to be a little hesitant to do some of the big items, that would be, to me, a great list of things if he could pull all those
Ned,
off.
The first item on your list, building the border wall, you're right. It was one of the biggest reasons why people voted. Where's the inflection point? Where's the moment where this happens?
Well, I think it's this whole debate over DACA. You know, I heard Mitch McConnell saying that he thinks he's going to bring that to the floor in January, and Donald Trump has to say, we will not have a DACA deal unless you get me full funding for this southern wall. And so I think it's going to be in the first couple months of 2018 where there's going to be a huge debate over what's happening in regards to DACA. And this is where Trump draws a line in the sand and says, nope, we're not having this conversation unless you give me that funding.
No, I think that's an important point. Full funding. Washington loves to say initial funding, and then they never fund it completely. It's got to be full. Ned Ryan, I think you've got the pulse of what Trump voters are looking for in 2018. We appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. Well, Vanity Fair apologizing. They're apologizing now. This is not a joke. For suggesting New Year resolutions for Hillary Clinton.
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
It was about the lightest touch criticism we've seen in a long time. Well, Tomi Lahren has a message for the magazine. Get a backbone. Well, I think she'll say even more than that. She's next. Plus, remember the college professor who said all he wanted for Christmas is white genocide? Well, he's making news again this morning.
We're having a great morning here. Hope you are at home. 24 minutes after the hour with some quick headlines for you. Democrat Doug Jones is the official winner of the special Senate election in Alabama. The state certification despite Republican Roy Moore's last-minute lawsuit that alleged voter fraud. Jones is now the first Democrat to win that seat in 25 years. And the State Department expected to dump an avalanche of emails from Hillary Clinton's top aide today. According to Judicial Watch, the nearly 3,000 pages of Huma Abedin's work documents were found on her ex-husband's laptop. You might remember him, convicted sex offender Anthony Weiner. Former FBI Director James Comey announced that bombshell discovery last October, days before the election. And Hillary Clinton has claimed over and over that that announcement cost her the presidency.
That and a few other things, Leland. All right, moving on. Vanity Fair forced to apologize to liberals, their readers, saying they missed the mark over their suggestions for Hillary Clinton's New Year's resolutions. Listen.
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
And now President Trump is getting into the mix. He's bashing the magazine for caving to the left. He tweeted, Vanity Fair, which looks like it's on its last legs, is bending over backwards and apologizing for the minor hit they took at Crooked Hillary. I love he keeps the name, Crooked Hillary. Anna Wintour was all set to be ambassador to Court of St. James, and big fundraiser for Hillary Clinton, is beside herself in grief and begging for forgiveness.
All right, and we wondered who might have some thoughts on this, and, well, we found Tomi Lahren. Tomi, thoughts on this, because it first blush, though, it was Vanity Fair finally sort of dishing it out even-handed.
And I gave them credit for that, actually, a couple of days ago on Hannity. I said, hey, good for them. They had a humor. They were able to poke fun at Hillary Clinton. And, of course, anytime you poke fun at Hillary Clinton, the leftist machine is going to come after you. But why are we apologizing to Hillary Clinton for anything? I will apologize to Hillary Clinton when she apologizes for compromising national security and classified information, lying about Benghazi, taking money from countries who torture women and gays, rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders, and just making women overall look bad. That's when I will apologize to Hillary Clinton. Until then, my goodness, Vanity Fair, get a backbone.
Well, Tommy,
I think she's safe. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
You're true. Well, this is what Vanity Fair had to say, to your point. They said, quote, it was an attempt at humor, and we regret that it missed the mark. Who did it miss the mark with, Tommy?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. If you look at Twitter, it was melting over this. They can't even take a joke at this point. They can't even poke fun at Hillary Clinton. I think maybe even Hillary Clinton might have more of a sense of humor than some of her supporters, and that's really saying something. Now,
It is.
It is.
Yeah, we saw that humor really come out on the trail.
So, Tommy, Hillary now tops the list of the most admired women in the world. By the way, this is like her 16th year in a row.
Right.
I looked at the list. There's not one conservative woman on the list. What do you make of this? Well, here's the deal. I think after 8 years of the Obama administration, Americans have been conditioned to appreciate losing and appreciate losers. So now we are still admiring losers, and Hillary Clinton is certainly a loser. But also keep in mind the other women on this list include Beyonce, who is admired for grinding and thrusting on stage. So I don't know about this list. I don't know about the polling. I haven't trusted polls since November 8th of 2016. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know why we're still looking at polls when they say that Hillary had a 93% chance of winning.
That's
I don't know.
true.
I don't know about the numbers.
This
there.
is Gallup, and they had she had 12% support last year. Now 9% of respondents for Hillary Clinton this year. So even though she's the most admired, it has dipped.
Well, and you said there was no conservatives on the list. I don't know if this qualifies as a conservative, but 1% of those surveyed named First Lady Melania Trump. Tommy, one thing that your videos have done is really brought to a forefront issues that may not be top of mind to everybody. Your take has sort of brought them up and allowed those stories to bubble up. What are your underreported stories of 2017 that you think as we head into the new year we need to look back on as important about President Trump's first year?
Oh, there are so many, and of course the leftist mainstream media will never cover them. But I think the main thing is understanding that under this president, in less than a year, we've got a tax break for 80% of Americans. That is monumental, and that's something that we're going to be remembering for years to come, and the middle class is going to be remembering for years to come, not just Republicans, but Americans in general. So I think that that is a big one. However, there are so many. I think historically, let's look at the president and his moves to recognize Jerusalem and recognize that as Israel's capital and move the embassy to Jerusalem. That is historic on its own. The three presidents before him promised to do it and failed to do it, but this president did it in less than a year. That is a testament to the strength of Donald Trump. And that's just going to continue on in 2018. I can't wait to see what we're going to do, but I can tell you this much. We're going to build that wall because we're all waiting on the edge of our seats for that one.
Well, that's what Ned Ryan said in the previous segment. I mean, conservatives and Trump supporters, that's a big part of what he ran on. There's been a lot of obstruction in Washington to that. But ultimately, if he keeps focus on something like that, his folks are going to love that. And they believe it's crucial to keeping our country safe as well.
All right. Tommy, thank you very much. Happy New Year if we don't see you before.
Yes, Happy New Year, Tommy.
All right.
Thank
All
you,
the
guys.
best. 2018 ahead. All right. Christmas, well, it's over, but the NFL, they're still playing the Grinch. They, as we've talked about, let players kneel for the national anthem, but how about these Jingle Bell cleats? Well, they're banned. We'll tell you why.
Plus, indulge one more time before that New Year's diet kicks in. The recipes you need to try this weekend next.
We have Leland to thank for this segment. Thank you, Leland.
And I'm going to be indulging for sure.
But first, happy birthday to Jude Law. He turns 45. There he is right there.
Looks pretty good for 45.
Hanging in there.
Yeah.
Back. Look at those cleats right there. It's your Friday shot of the morning. The NFL now waging their own war as if they haven't had enough. Now it's a war on Christmas.
The league finding New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara $6,000 for wearing those really cute Santa cleats, complete with jingle bells in last Sunday's game.
Kamara tweeting a picture of his fine notice, and You guessed it, he is starting a GoFundMe page where he has raised more than $1,300. He says he's going to donate any extra money over what he was fined to charity. Very, very generous of him.
Very generous of him. Of course,
He can afford $6,000.
Of course he can. It's the larger point, which is why we're talking about it right now. So you've got the NFL, which some have dubbed for a long time the No Fun League, not just for this, but for, no hits and they're going soft and all of that. But then you've got the issue this entire year of kneeling for the national anthem. But now you see this fine and a series of other fines that players get. Now, listen, there are rules. The NFL's allowed to have rules.
Yeah.
The issue a lot of us have with it is that you've got these rules about, cleats that look like Santa Claus for a Christmas Eve game.
And they're adorable.
And they're adorable. You use cute. I don't know that that's a word I would use, but
adorable.
They're great.
And they're monogrammed, too.
They're monogrammed, a ton of fun. Yet, when it comes to kneeling and the protocol, they won't enforce that. It's a selective enforcement, which looks like, hey, the small stuff will go all over. The big stuff that matters to a lot of Americans, even though our ratings are tanking, we're not going to pay attention.
Well, it's different than making a statement for perhaps on Christmas. You think about folks kneeling. That is a political statement. You also wear cleats, as Pittsburgh Steelers' D'Angelo Williams did about fining the Cure. He was fined $5,700. William Gray, who wore purple cleats to bring attention to domestic violence, hardly a divisive political issue, perhaps something we can all get together on, he was also fined $5,700.
Was Kaepernick fined for the pig police
I don't think
socks?
he was, no.
I don't think he was fined for that. Here's what I find interesting. The kneeling, the socks from Kaepernick, these are things that actually affect the bottom line for the NFL. Jingle Bell cleats, I don't think it's really going to make a difference in their bottom line. So it's really weird. It's not just the things that you're talking about, Pete, but it just seems like an odd place for the NFL to take a stand on.
If anything, Americans will look at that and go, that's really cool. Why aren't they all wearing Jingle Bell cleats on New Year's Eve, right? It's great. At least they're letting them celebrate in the end zone this year. It's like the one little iota of fun the NFL can manage. Let us know.
Let us know what you think. Email it in.
We all want you to let us know what you think. Friends at Fox News.
Leland's got his own special cleats that he wears on the show. He's got cowboy boots. I mean, they're not cleats, but they're special.
I'm just trying to keep up with your socks, Pete. Okay,
no.
I mean, come on.
Nope.
Really.
Boots are cooler than socks. That's a fact.
Well,
America agrees with you. All right, we're going to toss to Jillian right now, who's got a few more headlines for her. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. You're going to get fined for wearing those, Leland. You better watch out. The two brothers who forced a packed plane to make a U-turn 4 hours into the flight could face criminal charges. The FBI says they boarded the flight from LAX to Tokyo using a single boarding pass. The mix-up causing a 4,000-mile detour for passengers, which, by the way, included model Chrissy Teigen and her husband, singer John Legend. They documented this whole ordeal on social media. Turns out one brother had a ticket for that flight. The other brother actually had a ticket to Tokyo, but with a different airline. The Drexel professor who tweeted, "All I want for Christmas is white genocide," is now out of a job. George Chickariello Mayer is resigning next year. In a statement, he blames, quote, "nearly a year of harassment by right-wing white supremacist media outlets and internet mobs who have made death threats against him and his family." The professor came under fire after saying he wanted to vomit when he saw a passenger give up their airline seat for a soldier. And also he blamed the Las Vegas shooting on Trumpism. Insane new video showing a man drive right off a pier into frigid water. Yeah, the man trying to get away from police when he nosedives into the Columbia River in Oregon. At first, he tries to swim away, but quickly turns back, letting fishermen help him out of the water. He was treated for hypothermia before being booked on multiple charges, including trespassing on boats. Jeez. Take the money and run. That's exactly what a woman is claiming her coworker did with their winning lottery ticket. The waitresses in Arkansas were gifted the scratch-off as part of a Christmas gift from their boss. It was a winner. But Leslie Underwood says her coworker and now former best friend, pictured here, smiling as she claimed the $3,000 prize, well, she disappeared. She didn't even show up to work. So guess we'll stay tuned to see what happens with that. And if you were hearing some noise in the background, it's Pete because he's starving.
Sorry.
As usual. Sorry.
Jillian, I was paying attention. Yeah. We all were. Sorry about that. All right. Well, after the ball drops on New Year's Eve, many make resolutions to drop a few pounds and focus on our health.
But before you cut out carbs and hit the gym, you owe it to yourself to indulge at least just one more time, right, Chef?
One more time.
All right, well, this is a decadent spread to satisfy all of your cravings, including all of Pete's cravings. The author of Take This Dish and Twist It, Chef George Duran. Chef, good to see you. It's noteworthy how this is lined up. Pete is on the eating end of this demo, and I am on the working end of this demo.
Yeah. You're going to get nice and dirty over here. We have a lot of cheese to play with today.
Right, so
the most decadent food for me before the end of the year has got to be cheese fondue.
Ooh,
and that's because it's a party, festive, tasty. And what we're going to do is very simple. It's very simple. All you have to do is really start simmering some white wine and grate some cheese. In this case, we have Jarlsberg cheese here. You want a nice, mild, nutty flavored cheese. Something that's really, use a coarser side so you can get really thick.
I love
there
that you did fondue.
Mind you,
fancy,
I actually figured out a way to screw up grating cheese.
No, you're good. You're good. So we're going to just whisk this. And so as you whisk inside of the wine, that starts melting and you have a nice ooey, gooey meltability cheese. And again, Jarlsberg being a nice Norwegian-style cheese, recipe cheese.
It's from Norway, but you
the
can
recipe
get it
is Norwegian, correct, and you can find this all throughout. And you want to look for those holes inside of it. That's what really gives that unique flavor to it. So once you melt the cheese inside of the wine, you whisk. Then you have a lovely fondue. And inside here, you can put salt, pepper, garlic, onions, whatever you want inside of it. You can make it your own. But here's what I've done, actually. I've taken an Italian loaf, and what you do is you hollow out the inside of the loaf. You kind of cut it in a base. You hollow out the inside. You toast it with some olive oil, and this turns into kind of like a bread bowl presentation.
Am I done grading?
Yeah, you're good grading.
You have to toast it so it stays.
Exactly.
You actually can pour something in there.
That's exactly right. So look at this. Now, once we do this, hot coming through right over here, you kind of pour it just like that, and let it overflow too, just like that.
Look how fancy and nice that was. And it's so easy to make.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, you add a little bit of truffles and on top of the truffle dust, a little bit of truffle dust in there. And then to serve this, you want to go extra step there, and we have some bacon wrapped dates over there for you.
I already took the bacon off.
No, that goes in here.
Oh, it goes in there.
Dig in, and then you have a little bit of breadcrumbs here too, but you want to really...
Pete says he's never had a date before.
I've had dates, just not this kind of date.
This cheese is fantastic for mac and cheese as well. So what I've done actually is made mac and cheese balls deep fried. I made the balls from mac and cheese.
How do you get them to stay in a ball?
Yeah, so you use your hand, and then once it becomes cold, you can use it and form it into little balls.
Okay.
Put a little bit of breadcrumbs if you want on it. Deep fry it right before the friends come.
Who doesn't like
How about deep fried mac and cheese in fondue cheese?
As long as it's Jarlsberg, I'm good with that. Go ahead, take a taste. You serve it with lobster, serve it with shrimp, serve it with anything you want.
Wait, you serve the mac and cheese with the lobster and shrimp.
Yeah.
Right?
But,
okay, but not the fondue.
The lobster, low carb, right? Low carb?
Sure, of course. Who's counting carbs? Who's talking about carbs right now? It's not even New Year's.
We're not talking about carbs.
I know, but I'm just saying this is supposed to be indulgent, but actually that's actually good for you.
Yeah, you can pay a little extra, get some lobster. Treat yourself before January 1st, and you're set to go over here. And then what I've done, actually, I did a little something extra. You take a little eggplant, cut it in half, and use that as the base to put your skewers with the food on it, and you have a nice little decorative.
Well, this is a very cute idea how to use food to do presentation. This is a really easy way to send out,
get something decadent for the party.
Send out the old,
fondue is fun. People love fondue.
That's
so if you can do it that easily, and
that's he can do it. He can do it that easily. Thanks, Chef.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, coming up, a Republican congressman under fire from the left for this.
I would like to see the directors of those agencies purge it and say, look, we've got a lot of great agents, a lot of great lawyers here. Those are the people that I want the American people to see.
That congressman is Francis Rooney, and he sets the record straight. Up next.
Plus, forget the dollar menu. How about the munchie menu? We have one right here. Okay, come on. Just for pot smokers. It's coming up soon.